Hello, my name's Joe Clark. I'm a spiritual healer based in Oceanside, California. You can learn more about me and my services at my website, josephclark-spiritualflourishing.com. And the method I'm going to teach today is called observing mental activity. Back up there for a second. You can find this and other helpful mindfulness methods in my book, Soul, Supportive Guidance for Healing and Awakening. You can find Soul at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and authorhouse.com. Get my direction going the right way here. Sorry about that. All right, so before we dive into the method, let's review 4 touchstones of successful practice. These are good principles to keep in mind to help you get the most out of your mindfulness practice. The first key to success in your mindfulness practice is commitment, resolving to practice, choosing to actually do it. And by showing up today, you've done exactly that. The second key to success in your mindfulness practice is consistency, practicing regularly. I invite you to see your mindfulness practice much like a fitness routine. If you think about activities like jogging, swimming, yoga, lifting weights, you benefit far more from these activities the more consistently you do them. And a mindfulness practice works much the same way. The third key to success in your mindfulness practice is flow. This has to do with the difficulty level of your practice. I invite you today, don't make your practice too hard and don't make your practice too easy. Try to find a sustainable groove. If your practice is getting too hard, if you're straining and struggling to do it, if you find you're getting stressed and anxious about your effort level, ease up. Continue to ease up until you find a more sustainable pace. Likewise, if your practice is getting too easy, if you're giving it only a fraction of your attention, you feel like you're just going through the motions, focus. And continue to focus until you find a productive groove. The fourth key to success in your mindfulness practice is friendship. Be good to yourself. We engage in these mindfulness practices as a gift to ourselves and to others. And so let that truth be reflected in the manner in which you practice. I invite you today to practice in the spirit of friendship by being good to yourself. One way to summarize what I just said there with the touchstones is this quote from the mindfulness teacher Chula Dasa. In his book, The Mind Illuminated, he wrote that when it comes to a mindfulness practice, success comes through repetition with a relaxed attitude rather than from effortful striving. So if at any point in your practice you find yourself asking, what should my mindset be? How hard should I be working at this? What level of effort should I be putting in? This is a great line to come back to. Repetition with a relaxed attitude. Last preliminary matter for today is posture. I invite you to cultivate a healthy and comfortable posture. And here are 4 good posture goals to keep in mind. First, let your posture be aligned. Here's one way to cultivate alignment in your posture. Notice your pelvis, and notice whatever surface is supporting your pelvis right now. And notice how just as the pelvis is being supported by this surface, the pelvis is supporting the spine. And now notice that just as the spine is being supported by the pelvis, the spine is supporting the neck. And notice how just as the neck is supported by the neck is supporting the head. And so now notice these 4 areas, your head, your neck, your spine, and your pelvis, and let them come into an alignment that feels healthy and comfortable for you. A second good posture goal to keep in mind is balance. Here's one way to cultivate balance in your posture. Gently rock your body forward, backwards, to the right, to the left, and then let your body settle into a natural balanced state between those extremes. A third good posture goal to keep in mind is openness. Let your posture be open. If your posture feels closed or shut in any way, see that as an invitation to gently open, like a blossom opening to the light. And our fourth posture goal for today is softness. I invite you right now Become soft. Let your body relax. Release any stress and tension you're holding on to. Just let it melt away. Let your body settle into a soft and steady state. So the method I'm teaching today is called observing mental activity. This is a very powerful method for cultivating inner peace and for cultivating mental clarity. Now, I call this method observing mental activity, but Zen Buddhists have a really beautiful name for it. They call it turning the light around. And they call it that because normally the light of our attention is directed outward onto physical activity. We're paying attention to our own bodies. We're paying attention to the people and the things around us. And we're paying attention to our physical environment. What we do in this meditation is we practice turning the light around. We take our attention that we're directing toward the physical environment and we direct it inward toward our mental activity. And it's this inward movement of attention and sustaining of attention in this inward direction that brings us the peace and the mental clarity we're looking for. I just want to acknowledge up front, this can be a difficult practice to do, especially at first. We're so used to directing our attention outward that it can be hard to direct our attention inward. And even if we do direct our attention inward, it can be difficult to keep it there. But I want to assure you, I'm going to be with you every step of the way to teach you this method. I'm going to give you a trick to help make this method more effective. And I want to let you know on a personal level, this may be the most powerful meditative method that I know for cultivating deep inner peace and easing mental chaos and stuckness. So I encourage you, overcome any initial difficulty and resistance you feel. Stay with it. It does get easier the more you practice, and the benefits can be deep, long-lasting, and profound. So what we're going to do to start is I'm going to teach you the method. I'm going to walk you through it right now, and then we're going to spend about 2 minutes practicing the method. When that's done, I'm going to give you a trick you can use to make the method easier and more effective. And then we're going to practice the method again for a longer period of time. So first, let me walk you through the method before we practice it together. Here's how you do observing mental activity. First, you're going to state your intention. And you could do this either silently or aloud. The intention is this: during this session, I will observe mental activity. Once you've stated your intention, you're going to then direct your attention inward toward your mental activity. And then you're going to sustain your engagement observing that mental activity. So just take a moment, review those instructions one more time for yourself. And now what I want you to do is practice. We're going to practice for 2 minutes. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. It's not about that. It's about giving it your humble and honest best. That's where the results come from. So I'm going to set this timer now for 2 minutes. What I want you to do now is turn the light around. Take your attention off of physical activity, your body, the things around you, your environment. Take that attention and gently direct it inward onto your mental activity, onto the operations of your mind. Observing mental activity. Observing mental activity. Beautiful. 1 minute down, 1 minute to go. Continue observing mental activity. Give it your humble and honest best. Turn that light around. Watch the mind at work. Notice what your mind is doing. Just a few more moments now of observing mental activity. All right, beautiful. So that was 2 minutes of the method. I want you just to pause for a moment and check in with yourself. Notice how you're thinking, notice how you're feeling. And if you've noticed any improvements, even subtle ones, let your mind make the connection between the method you just used and the result it just brought you. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you a trick to make this method both easier and more effective. I'm going to walk you through the trick and then we'll practice it together. So the trick is to generate this thought in your mind. You're going to think to yourself, I am observing mental activity. I am observing mental activity. Now, the way this trick works is that as you're generating that thought in your head, you're going to recognize that thought, I'm observing mental activity, as mental activity. And so in the moment of observing that mental activity occurring, you are doing this meditation. You are turning the light around. The best way to understand this trick is to practice it. So let's do that right now. Go and connect with your healthy and comfortable posture. Feel balanced, aligned, open, and soft with your body. Go ahead and take one unhurried breath. When you're ready, let's practice this trick. So I want you to generate this thought in your mind and let it repeat a few times. I am observing mental activity. I am observing mental activity. I am observing mental activity. Let that thought arise and re-arise in your mind a few times. Do that now. Good. Now see if you can let that thought continue to generate in your mind. I'm observing mental activity. I'm observing mental activity. And notice that thought. Notice it happening again and again and again. Notice that now. Recognize the thought happening and recognize it as a thought. And in that moment of recognition, in that act of noticing the thought as a thought, you are observing mental activity. You are turning the light around. So the way to use this trick in the meditation is first to do the basic method. State the intention of observing mental activity. Do your humble and honest best to observe mental activity. And if you're struggling to do it, or if you feel like you want to take your practice to the deeper level, use this trick. Deliberately generate the thought, I am observing mental activity in your mind. Generate that thought again and again and again. And as you notice that thought arising and re-arising and re-arising, recognize it as a thought. And in that moment of recognition, you're doing the meditation and you're calibrating your attention away from the physical environment and onto your mental activity. This will help you find a nice groove in the method that you can sustain. Now, before we practice the method again, I just want to go over a few types of a few examples of the types of mental activity you may observe while you're doing this practice. Again, these aren't all the types of mental activity by any means, just an example of the few most common ones you may see. So one type of mental activity you may notice is verbal thoughts. Right? You may notice the mind generating thoughts like, what's for dinner? How's the weather going to be today? Oh, did I remember to send that email? As you see those verbal thoughts arising, recognize them as mental activity. A similar type of mental activity you may notice is internal conversations. You may notice a thought arise like, how's the weather going to be? And then all of a sudden, various other parts of the mind may start jumping in with thoughts about it. Predictions that it's going to be hot, that it may rain, that it may be cold. Your mind then starts talking about what kind of jacket you may want to wear today. When you see that internal conversation picking up, recognize it as mental activity. A third type of mental activity you may notice is memories. You may notice memories from your recent past or from your deep past arising up. They may be visual memories. They may be memories that you feel more on an emotional level and that don't necessarily have a clear image associated with them, but more of a combination of sensory memories. When this type of memory comes up, simply recognize it as mental activity. Another type of mental activity you may notice is imagining the future. Your mind may keep trying to jump ahead into the day or the weeks or the months ahead to plan, to organize, to worry. When you see the mind future tripping, going into the imagined future, recognize it as mental activity. And lastly, another type of mental activity you may notice is daydreaming. The mind just drifting from memory to imagining the future, to associations, to generating alternate versions of reality where it can play and wander and explore. In this meditation, what I'm inviting you to do is when you notice your mind daydreaming, recognize it as mental activity and continue to observe your mental activity. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to practice the method again. We're going to do it for 5 minutes. So I'll review the instructions one more time so that you're fresh in your mind. I'll start the timer, and I'll periodically give you verbal reminders while the timer is running to help you stay on track. So when you practice this method, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to state your intention that during the session I'll observe mental activity. You're then going to direct your attention inward, away from physical activity and onto the operations of your mind. And you're going to sustain engagement, continuing to observe mental activity. If you're struggling or if you want to deepen your practice, use the trick we practiced earlier. Generate this thought in your mind. I am observing, I wrote physical activity on there. It should say, I'm observing mental activity. I'm observing mental activity. Let that thought repeat in your mind again and again and again. And as you're noticing that thought, I'm observing mental activity. I'm observing mental activity. Recognize that that thought itself is mental activity. And in that moment of noticing that thought as a thought, you're doing this meditation. You're observing mental activity occurring. You're turning that light around. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start our timer. Go and connect with your healthy and comfortable posture. Go ahead and take one unhurried breath. And now I invite you to observe mental activity. Direct attention away from the world and onto your mind. Observing mental activity. Good. 1 minute down. Turn that light around. can be hard at first. Stay with it. It's worth it. If you're having a hard time, use that trick we practiced. Generate the thought, I am observing mental activity, and notice it as a thought. Good, halfway mark. Notice the operations of the mind. Notice thoughts as thoughts. Turn the light around. Observe the mind. At 1 minute left. Enjoy this time observing mental activity. Enjoy these last few moments observing mental activity. Nicely done. So just pause here for a moment. Check in with yourself. Notice how you're feeling. Notice how you're thinking. And use this opportunity to help your mind make a connection between the method you just practiced and any benefits you're feeling right now. This will positively reinforce the practice and give you encouragement and motivation to do it again in the future. All right, nice job. Feel free to give yourself a pat on the back. Give yourself a squeeze if that feels right. You've done yourself a great service by engaging in this practice today. I wish you good luck and good fortune. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.